Hello and welcome to another edition of Pump Up the Jam. Yes, this is where we dissect and discuss the goings-on of the Walmart Wallace, of course, the Duchess of Sussex, and the Poundland Prince, Prince Harry. With me, Cristo, here in London, and LA, are you there?
Hi guys, Kinsey Schofield here. That's right. Today we're going to talk all about Harry and Meghan's upcoming trip to Colombia. We've lost another staff member. I'm losing my ability to count them on my fingers and toes at this point for Archwell. Another one bites the dust, and a lot of questions surrounding the future of American Riviera Orchard. So we've got a lot to discuss today.
You're right. Do you need to borrow any body parts to count up the members of staff that we've lost, Kinsey? I'll donate a few because there have been
I won't.
so many. Is it that, because I saw a bit of reaction. I mean, if anyone wants to know the story, this is Josh Kettler, and this was the very grandly titled Chief of Staff. And this was the man that was apparently going to guide Harry through his next phase. As it turned out, he was only going to guide Harry through the next 3 months, because that's how long he lasted in his job. So, as you rightly say, another staff member, a much heralded staff member that has been lost to the Sussexes. Firstly, what's your reaction, Kinsey, and why do you think that this person might have left?
Well, People magazine is reporting that the Duke and Duchess's chief of staff left his position after 3 months, but he was hired on a trial basis. And the decision to part ways was mutual, with both sides agreeing it wasn't the right fit. So I always turn to People magazine. I feel like they are the new Omid Scobie. Harry and Meghan work very closely with them, are featured on the cover of their magazines, and we get a lot of insight into what's going on from Harry and Meghan's perspective from People magazine, because they're giving people permission to talk to them on their behalf. But this is coming just a month after Dominic Reed, the CEO who led Invictus Games from its creation, stepped down as well, when he said it's time for someone new to take this vital movement forward into the second decade. He resigned, I would say, almost hours after Prince Harry accepted the Pat Tillman Award on national television, and I don't think that that was a coincidence. So this isn't a great look for the Sussexes. Newsweek points out that all of the Sussexes staff departures tend to draw attention because of that very wild December 2018 article out of the Sunday Times, which reported that Meghan Markle was a difficult boss. That's really where she got the nickname Duchess Difficult. And this was after Meghan had lost her second close aide, Samantha Cohen, the one that we found out called Harry and Meghan teenagers. Working with them was like working with a bunch of teenagers. But a pretty critical headline even coming from Newsweek about the most recent departure. It says Prince Harry staff departure echoes major crisis.
And of course, we alluded to this last week, didn't we? These bullying allegations from when Meghan was in Buckingham Palace, part of the royal family herself. So this does all reinforce this idea that they are an absolute nightmare. And some of their supporters online are saying, as you have rightly said, that it's a mutual decision. Some people have actually said as well, why do they need a chief of staff? I mean, did this person quit just out of sheer boredom? Because they don't really do anything that warrants a job for someone who is very corporate, for someone who took this role hopefully wanting to get their teeth into it, that actually there isn't much for them to be getting on with because they don't really do anything.
Well, this is their second international tour this year, so I would bet. I mean, they're obviously trying to do some. They're trying to fly. So, I think that there is an argument that they are trying to create something around these international tours.
Now, I've got to talk. I don't know. Did you see the spat online between Richard Eden, who broke this story, and Chris Shipp, the royal correspondent from ITV? Because there's been a little bit of a spat between them, and it's quite interesting because Richard Eden pointed out that ITV News has been told the departure was a mutual decision. And Richard Eden retweeted Chris Shipp saying, ITV News has been told what a joke. It would have been more honest if you'd attributed that to a spokesman for the Sussexes. And I revealed this on Mail Online last night. Chris Shipp then said, sorry, I thought that the story originated in People, but if I'm wrong, then please accept my apology. So it does seem like, going back to your theory, and very good of Chris Shipp as well to then attribute the story to Richard Eden. But going back to your theory, it does seem then that when Richard Eden ran the story, there wasn't any reaction, and then People managed to get some reaction from Harry and Meghan, which then became a mutual decision. But certainly in the first story that Richard Eden wrote, it wasn't by mutual decision. This person had quit.
Yes, the People magazine story went up 12 hours ago. So Richard Eden, without a doubt, was the first to report this, because that, I mean, his story happened, I'd almost say 20 hours ago. So Richard Eden was the first to report, and then Harry and Meghan damage control, their damage control situation right now is no longer Omid Scobie and his Twitter account. It's working closely with People magazine. We saw this it was their exclusive cover last week about how Meghan supports Harry 100%, but she wishes he could go and get rid of these lawsuits, be happy and live in the moment and forget about the lawsuits. And a source, a former employee of Archwell, told People magazine she wants him to be free of all of this, but she also knows that because of everything he's been through and his love for her and the children, he can't. She wants him to live in a world where he is not burdened by this.
So people are getting a lot of stuff from them, aren't they?
Why is a former staff member of Archwell, notorious for signing NDAs? I've talked to Valentine Lowe about this extensively, about how these people are petrified to talk after signing NDAs, after working at the palace, after working for Harry and Meghan. Why is a former staff member talking to People magazine about Meghan being the one that wants to move forward and Prince Harry holding her back? You don't do that unless you've been told you're not going to be sued. You don't do that unless you have permission to talk to People magazine by the Sussexes.
And in your experience in royal reporting, is that quite usual? Because Richard Eden is saying, I went to them with this story, didn't hear a thing, waited to run it, and didn't get any response from them. But then obviously they then wanted to control the narrative through this preferred publication. Is that usual for them? Is it usual for them to say, well, actually, we're not going to give this to the publication that's breaking the story, we'll give it to a preferred publication instead?
Yes, I think that they were trying to scoop Richard Eden by going to People magazine. I'm sure that was the likely the original plan. That's what they typically do when they found out that Dan Wooten was about to break Megxit. They asked him not to. They asked him to hold off on it, and then tried to figure out a way that they could get it out before he could. So that is typically how they operate.
And is that sour grapes, or is it controlling the narrative? Is it, well, we're not going to give it to you, we'll give it to someone that we like? Or is it perhaps wise on their part because then they have some control over what's being said?
Well, look, Josh Kettler was praised for being instrumental in the Sussexes' success when it came to the Nigeria tour. So it's not a great look for him to be departing within days of the Colombia tour. And I'm sure that those are some of the headlines that they wanted to avoid. But this is also the 18th employee that we know of that they've lost. That's not housekeepers, that's not nannies, this is just under the Archwell umbrella that we know of since 2018, and that's a pretty dramatic number. And they know as that number gets higher, that it gives credibility to the stories about Meghan Markle being difficult to work for. Also, Prince Harry in Spare, I don't think he realizes that he gave credibility to that story when he wrote, nerves were shattered, people were sniping in such a climate, there was no such thing as constructive criticism. And he says that all the feedback that him and Meghan gave to employees was considered an affront, an insult. And more than one staff member slumped over their desk and cried. And he talks about how Prince William blamed one person for that toxic environment, and that was Meghan. So I think that they're trying to avoid that narrative continuing, but they lost their job at Spotify. Everybody's questioning what's going on with American Rivier Orchard. It does seem like at the end of the day, these two people don't get along very well, and have a difficult time working with others.
And have a difficult time working at all, it seems, because of course they were called massively lazy when it came to Spotify and the like, producing content. And at what point, if you're them, do you start to question, is it us? I mean, would it be employee number 17 that you've lost? Employee number 16? Employee number 15? At what point do you start saying, maybe it is us? And it's a really, it's a true observation that you make about this tour to Colombia. I mean, is it related? Is this staff member, as you say, highly respected? Is it perhaps some conflict about this Colombia tour and the way it's perceived to the public? Because a lot of people, us included, have made the point that how can you, on the one hand, be kicking up this huge stink about security, but then go to one of the most dangerous countries in the world? Perhaps from a PR perspective, he felt that his job was untenable.
Well, and to answer your question, I think that they have to start looking in the mirror at this point in time, because the way Prince Harry positions it is that Meghan wasn't the problem. It was the staff at the palace was the problem. Very much so. He says that things are outdated there. There's the gray suits working behind their backs, that it wasn't Meghan at Kensington Palace. But they've lost at least 9 employees since moving to California. And one of the quotes that Richard Eden got was a former employee telling him, what may be most telling is that the entire time I worked there, I don't think I heard a single current or former employee on their staff say that they would take the job again if given the chance. What that tells you is these are not great bosses, and attitude reflects leadership. And so I do believe that they have to be looking back at least now and saying, okay, 18 in general, maybe people were fussy at the palace. We'll give them that. But you've lost half of them since you've been here. So
Yeah.
at what point do you look in the mirror and say, I might be the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. At what point do you say we must be toxic when it comes to people working for us? But also, can you imagine the audacity of palace staff members that may have been there for years, that were assigned to Meghan and Harry to help that transition, and Meghan gives them feedback? Sorry, I know that you may have worked in palace circles and you may be one of the grey suits that has worked here for the last 30 years and you've contributed to the success of our most successful and longest reigning monarch of all time, Queen Elizabeth II. But I'm going to give you some feedback about what I want. It's outrageous.
Yeah, I work on a cable news show. I'm not a news show. I work on a cable drama. I work on a scripted cable show. I'm smarter than you. I mean, there were very nasty stories from the beginning that she told one of Prince Harry's employees, or I shouldn't say Prince Harry because he was still in the fold. It was somebody that worked for Prince William, the Princess of Wales, Kate, and Prince Harry. She said, I'm going to be your boss one day, like in a threatening way. So I believe that was in Tom Bower's book. But it's obviously they have an issue getting along with people. They think they're always right, and they have a real problem taking direction, because I don't know who would advise them that going on this trip to Colombia is a good idea. I think they will likely be able to manage it, and the video and the pictures will come out glossy and beautiful, and they will consider it a win. But I also believe that it's not going to change people's perspective of them, and they are still considered the butt of the joke in the United States. We just had Joe Rogan on the front of the Daily Mail yesterday, tearing into them on a Netflix special, their bosses. They also work for Netflix. So they're going to continue to be the butt of the joke, no matter how many pretty pictures come out of Colombia or Nigeria.
And you rightly alluded to this People story, saying apparently from a member of staff who has been, had the gag removed from their mouth, that Meghan wants this litigation to stop. Is that contributing to them being the butt of the joke? The fact that they just, or Harry particularly, just can't leave it alone and just keeps going and going and going, because it is a lot of people. I think if this is true, Meghan's got a point. Just enjoy your life. Get on with it. It's fine. This vendetta that you have against the tabloids is fueling people getting frustrated with you, but also making a fool of yourself.
I think that this is an attempt by Meghan to look like the carefree, joyful, likable girl, because she's about to launch a lifestyle brand and a cooking show, and their brand is so toxic and negative. They're always, whether Meghan's on CBS talking about her mental health struggles, or Meghan is on Oprah Winfrey, the tone is always negative. She is considered a heavy presence and a disruptive presence. By allowing somebody, a former employee of Archewell, to talk to People magazine, saying that she wants Harry to pull back and she's not the one behind instigating his pursuit of all of this litigation, I think the objective is to take some of the heat off of her, so that she doesn't look so disruptive, so that she can look like, oh, I'm lost in it too. I wish he'd stop. I wish we could focus on the future. I think that's the objective.
I'm so relaxed. I don't mind about these things because I'm not a control freak. I'm not a control freak. I'm just a very, very, very relaxed. Tiara. The tiara? What tiara? I didn't want a tiara. What? Someone didn't call me a duchess and I hit the roof. That's not true. Oh, I don't mind what people call me. Yeah, that's the narrative she's trying to push, right?
Yeah, I definitely think she wants to be seen as friendly. Well, exactly, yeah, because one of the quotes that was given to maybe Us Weekly about her brand new Netflix show was they wanted her to look attainable. And that is what I think that some of these stories we're seeing planted in some of these publications is Meghan is nice, Meghan is friendly, Meghan makes jam. I mean, what the heck was the jam thing? I mean, it came out of nowhere. They're trying to make her a more likable character. And by distancing her from Harry's litigation, I think it almost makes him look over the top and paranoid, but maybe that is the goal. Maybe that's the goal, because she needs people to rally around her inevitably.
Well, if this has come from her, then she's clearly quite willing to throw him under the bus so that therefore she looks good instead. Well, I don't want my cookery show to fail. Well, rather than support my husband, I'll just throw him under the bus completely, make out that he's paranoid and that he shouldn't be doing this at all. Because it is an art. I mean, this is quite interesting that, when you look at the really successful cookery shows, lifestyle shows, that people have had that are successful. Look at someone like Nigella. I mean, she comes from wealth and privilege, but she manages to bridge the gap where people are able to relate to her and enjoy what she's offering. The problem is anyone going to believe Meghan when she said, well, look at this lovely meal and I've made it for all my friends, and come in, staff members, why don't you eat some of this? Because people are going to think, well, do you have that many friends that you've not ditched? You're certainly not going to be cooking a dinner party for your family because you've ditched all of those. And, staff members, not going to be very many of those either. And so it's going to spoil the illusion of a homely cookery show, right?
I think so. And I don't know whether she'll include the children, but I almost feel like that is an easy out and a great distraction, even if it's just the back of the kids in the kitchen while she's making something at the
they'll hire
counter.
They'll hire a couple. Get on an agency, hire a couple. It'll be fine. Stick a slightly red wig on a child from an agency, and we can all just coo and ah over them. It will be lovely.
But I do think it's an impossible task to try to execute a rebrand at the same time that you're trying to shove something down somebody's throat. So, to tell us all, leading up to this show. We believe it's premiering at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, along with the launch of American Riviera Orchard, to tell us that she's likable, she's nice, you want to make the same muffins that she makes. It to try to do this all at the same time, get us to turn on her show, get us to buy her product, but also get us to buy this garbage narrative that they're trying to sell us now, which is that she is just carefree, happy-go-lucky California girl, no drama. It's they're trying to sell too much too soon.
Yeah, no
You know,
drama.
they've had 4 years to figure this out, and they haven't.
Here you go. Why don't you cook something for your dad? You know, the poor man who's probably hasn't seen a good meal from a family member like her for a long, long time. Now, you mentioned being carefree and happy and all these sorts of things. And this, of course, this Colombia visit. Why? We still don't know. But interesting piece in the Telegraph this week where some people are discussing, residents in Colombia are saying now they've been invited by the left-wing government, and the left-wing government has been dogged by corruption scandals since elected the last couple of years in the last couple of years. So a lot of commentators are saying, well, hang on, this is the perfect cover-up. Get the Duke and Duchess over to Colombia, big glamorous visit, all of the photographs and all the glossiness that you talk about. This is the perfect way to gloss over all of the corruption and all of the scandals that this government has been involved in. So are Harry and Meghan actually being used? They think they're the ones in control with this visit, but in actual fact, they're being used by the left-wing Colombian government.
I don't think that they're being used. I think that it's mutually beneficial. Harry and Meghan get the pictures. I mean, Harry and Meghan are having to leave not only my country, but your country to be seen as leaders. Otherwise, they're loathed or they're jokes. So what they get out of the Colombia trip, People magazine is going to print glowing stories of them, glossy pictures of Meghan in very expensive, beautiful outfits. And they're going to be standing there with other world leaders, which they're hoping that you are who you associate with, and people will assume that they're in the same kind of lane that some of these world leaders are. And Colombia gets a distraction from the corruption happening in the government. I think it's mutually beneficial. Maybe you are who you associate with and they're all a little corrupt. Enjoy each other.
Yeah, have fun. But I think that's where the role of journalists is really important, actually. The journalists don't get seduced by all of this and the glossy pictures and all of these things, and that they still discuss, hey, this isn't the perfect country. I mean, Colombia is still described by the US government as level 3 or an orange risk when it comes to terror and safety. Reconsider travel due to crime and terrorism is what the US government says. The UK government says terrorists are very likely to carry out attacks in Colombia. There's a risk of kidnapping by armed groups, and the country is seriously afflicted by conflict and cocaine turf wars. And so, again, I mean, I know we've made this point, but such a bizarre place to visit when you are going on about your own security. I mean, the UK and the US governments are saying to people, this is a place you've got to be very, very careful. Meghan and Harry suddenly not worried about those concerns. Very odd.
Yeah, I just think that they're going where they're invited, and
Just anywhere.
they're not being invited to places that have their what together.
Anywhere. Send them a message, Kinsey. Maybe they'll come to one of ours. I don't think we're on their Christmas card list somehow.
No, I don't want to deal with them anyway.
We're in the Thomas Markle file, most definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, now shall we talk about the about American Riviera Orchard and what is actually happening? Because apparently now there are going to be some delays. We've seen the jam, we've seen the dog biscuits, but now there is an issue regarding this trademark. What's that all about?
So it's going to cost, well, according to People magazine, it's been taken care of, but there were some irregularities with trademark submission because she wants this brand to be international. And it cost them approximately $11,000 to fix these errors. But People says that American Riviera Orchard received notices of irregularity around clarifications for goods and services, as well as reclassification of certain products. I believe I saw yoga mats being one of those products that was mentioned. Now, People insists that such inquiries are typical while pursuing international applications due to the differences between international and US standards. And they say all fees and such notices have been paid and no further action is required. And they do say that Meghan's American Riviera Orchard is on track to launch later this year. But these are costly mistakes, and apparently it's just something that might happen along the way. But I think some interesting things have come out of the paperwork that we've seen filed. I don't think it's a rosé. I didn't see anything in the trademark application for a rosé. So I
I
thought that
love
was
that you've
interesting.
been through the trademark application. You're amazing. I love that you've been through
And then
trademark.
another thing that I don't believe, she has filed this application to have standalone stores. I don't know if it's a different type of application. I'd have to confirm, but I don't think she will try to have a store. I think she'll try to do pop-ups. She strikes me as somebody that wants to like do like hyped little American Riviera Orchard pop-ups where she wants to create a scene. I mean, sending out these gems 4 months ago and us not getting anything. Obviously, her mindset is to build some sort of hype. So I think that there will be standalone American Riviera Orchard pop-up shops. I don't believe that there's rosé. Maybe that's something that's going to happen in the future. But I think that she is keen to launch this with her Netflix show. It's going to be an all-out blitz. So if you are already feeling overwhelmed with Harry and Meghan news lately, I hate to tell you that Christmas time, it's going to be miserable.
Well, there's got to be something. All they've produced is jam and dog biscuits, and as you say, a yoga mat, which are, by the way, three really weird products to have side by side. Like, we're just going to go online. But what are they? Amazon? I mean, I'm just going to go on and buy a yoga mat and some. I remember. I think originally they were talking about tea towels as well, and dog biscuits and jam. What bizarre products! And all they have produced so far, for sure, is this jam and a packet of dog biscuits, and that's it.
That you can't buy. That you can't buy at all.
How long will it take them to produce something? And remember, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about how there doesn't seem to be, people have been in touch with manufacturers around the LA area, and no one's been commissioned to try and start making anything. And so,
Well, they will likely do that in China. I mean, we're talking yoga mats, and we're talking, they're just going to slap a logo on things that already exist. I mean, that's probably especially if they're just going to utilize Netflix to really navigate some of this stuff, which is,
I feel a China visit coming on. Oh,
oh,
another regime that perhaps isn't well known for looking after this. They'll still go to China, do the factory deal, a few jars of jam that they stick their labels on, and then, come
Well,
home after a few glossy pictures.
I just want to know what percentage Meghan's going to say she is with the Colombian people. Like how is she going to say that she's directly related to somebody within the room there?
It's true. She's Colombian. This week she's Colombian. She's been Maltese. She's been Nigerian. So you're right. I mean, there hasn't been Colombia yet, so that is probably the next one. Apparently, this article as well regarding the joys of cooking, gardening, entertaining, and friendship, which is the products we're going to be getting. They're now saying that it seems likely to be pushed back into 2025. And so goodness knows when we'll actually get any kind of product. Goodness knows what those products will be. And goodness knows whether it will be some tat that's probably made in China, like you say, where I'm quite sure. And they're going to have to be careful, by the way, if they manufacture in a country like that, because if they are the ones banging on about you know, wanting to be kind and wanting to not have any kind of human rights violations and all these
They
sorts of
don't
things.
ever say, they don't ever do that. They say one thing and they do another. So that
Exactly.
they're not going to be about that at all. They don't care.
They don't care. You're right. They don't care. They don't care. But we care. And is that just about it for another week, isn't it? So we've had a lot to dissect this week. Now, what do people need to do?
We'll have even more next week after the Colombia trip. Oh my God, all of the outfits, all of the photos. We'll have so much.
It's going to be a Colombia special. And let's hope that Prince Harry doesn't indulge in some of the more recreational sides of Colombia, which we know he's fond of.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Otherwise, you know, he may be very well awake for the flight. So as always, what would people need to do?
Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend.
Yes, thank you. That's it from us. Thanks, Kinsey. Nice to see you. See you next time.
Okay.